welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. It is December 3rd. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, quite an interesting day that's going on today. We have the House vote going on. So, that's going to pass, of course. So that's, interesting. It's going to be along party lines, so no surprises, frankly. We have the Dow Jones. Hi. We have the Dow Jones bouncing all over the place because, once again, Trump could not keep either his stupidity or his mouth under control and has now upset a whole bunch of people with trade talk. So that's always good. The GOP has released a fantasy report talking about how Trump did nothing wrong. This whole nonsense with impeachment has nothing more to do than with the Democrats not being able to accept the results of the 2016 election. So that kind of crazy is going on. And probably the thing that is most distressing to me, frankly, and that is going to form the foundation or the question of this reading. Apparently, now, my numbers may not quite be accurate. It was either 53 or 56% of Republicans, when asked, affirm that Trump is a better president who basically has accomplished more for America. Are you ready? If you haven't heard this, than Abraham Lincoln. So, given the fact that there has been some 50 hours of impeachment hearings, given the fact that on Wednesday, so tomorrow, there's going to be another. Hang on a second, please. Okay, so apparently the animals are running roughshod over today's video here. Where was I? 53 to 56% think Trump is better. Oh, yeah. And so you've got the vote today. You've had 50 hours worth of testimonies. And yet, shockingly and surprisingly, I think to most of us, the numbers in terms of who, how many people think Trump should be impeached and removed from office, approval ratings, that kind of thing, have really not budged for Trump. So I want to take a bit of a dive today and take a look at exactly what the heck is going on with those Republicans. Like, what is it going to take, or frankly, is it going to take anything to convince them to sort of get off of the platform that they are on and apparently show no signs of deviating from. All right, so come on down. I have a question. You're just going to have to excuse the animal noises. I've got two of them running around chasing each other. I've got dogs barking at who knows what. All right. Let's take a look at the Republicans and what is going on with them. Republicans, Trump opinions. Republican, Trump opinions. Republican, Trump opinions. They believe the messaging. part of the reason that they believe the messenger, okay, and I'm not talking about like the Senate, House members, I'm talking about like people, the people who actually vote Republican. They're believing the messaging. And part of the reason that they have basically accepted it, the reason they just sort of believe what they believe, is that they still think that Trump is somehow going to make things better for them. Okay, that's part of it. You have that evangelical base who, of course, is convinced that Trump is going to bring on the end times for the second coming. They're not going to move. Okay, it matters not at all. They are not going to budge. Because the line that they have been fed and the story that they believe is that the more imperfect a vessel that, is chosen, the better it is. Sort of God has more material to work with then, I guess. So it's almost like the worse he gets, the worse he behaves, the crazier, the more erratic. To them, it is confirmation that this is the right fella for the job, okay? Like, it's just that simple. And the problem has become that the Republicans who believe in Trump literally believe whatever they are told. They honestly do not believe what they hear with their ears. They do not believe what they see with their eyes. They only believe what Trump and other GOP members tell them to believe and see and think. It's been interesting. I mean, I really try to avoid actually listening to Trump or watching him. He just aggravates me. But, I've been watching sort of the crowds behind him at these rallies as he becomes more and more outrageous. And it's fascinating because their behavior is almost as if it's not that they actually understand that what they're hearing is literally impacting and affecting their very lives. It's almost as if they think that they're at some sort of a reality TV show or some sort of a comedy routine. And the more outrageous he becomes, the more crazy the things are he says, the bigger and better a reaction he gets, which of course causes him to do it over and over again. But every time he does it, the next time it has to be even bigger, right? To get an even bigger reaction. And so for them, often it really does feel sometimes as if it's more about being entertained as opposed to being mindful of what is good for their country, what's good for their own lives, how this is impacting them. They have blinders on, and for now, those blinders are not going to come off. They're not. It's really kind of fascinating what's going on there, because the last little while, and again, I really try to minimize my exposure to Trump and the nonsense that comes out of his mouth, but I have heard him on a couple of occasions talk about, people say, I'm a better president than Lincoln. I'm the best president the United States has ever had. Well, you know what? If you repeat something often enough and consistently enough, pretty soon people believe it. And if they didn't think it in the first place, they buy into that sort of mentality of, well, if everybody else is thinking it, I should probably think it too, because I must be wrong. I must not be thinking clearly because all of the people around me believe one thing, so I better get on board and believe it too. That's how you end up with some 50 odd percent of Republicans. They've bought into the lie that Lincoln was an inferior president to Trump. They bought into it because they keep hearing it over and over again. The other thing that they keep hearing over and over again is the economy is doing better than it ever has. The economy is in brilliant shape. It can't get any better. Trade wars, yes, you know what? They hurt a little bit now, but in the end, they're going to pay off. And so what you end up with is a bunch of people who no longer understand facts versus fantasy. And that now is what comprises the Republican Party. And that is why they are so malleable. Because if Trump says it, it must be gospel. I use the word deliberately, since he is the chosen one. Okay? And so what that has done is it has put the government representatives, okay, be it in the House or the Senate, in a position where in order to hang on to what they view as their own security, their own political viability, they have had to completely compromise their principles and their morals to comply or to agree with what it is that Trump says. Now, except, of course, for those evangelical members of government who, are right in line with the whole he's the chosen one and whatever. So you have people who in government who know better or should know better, or you assume they knew better when you elected them, who have literally laid down like doormats because they're scared to go up against the bully, which just goes to show you, frankly, how spineless some of these elected officials are. I guess that's what happens when you're actually in an occupation where your ego and your ability to be liked and loved sort of drives what you do. And so the United States is sort of like in a place right now where in some ways it's like they're frozen, right? Because people who believe one thing aren't bending. Fantasy. People who believe in logic and facts, they're not bending because they can see with clear eyes and hear with clear ears what the heck is going on, and it terrifies them. So they're not moving. So there's this very, very narrow group of people in the middle who, are possibly likely to be swayed. And sadly, most of them aren't paying attention. They're just not. They're focused on Christmas. They're focused on recovering from Thanksgiving. They're focused on their jobs. They're focused on, I don't know, paying the mortgage, buying groceries, whatever it is. And so you have this situation where you have two camps of people who are pretty much unbending, and this narrow group of people who are going to sway things one way or the other who aren't paying attention. That's where we are right now. So I think part of what I'm trying to relay to you is the understanding and the recognition that if you believe that when this thing gets to the Senate and there is the trial in the Senate, if you believe that something is going to change and there's going to be this moment where people sort of shake their heads and come out of the fog and say, oh my goodness, what on earth is going on? It's not going to happen. And I don't want you to think it is, because then you are going to be devastated when it doesn't happen. Okay? They're not budging. And as long as the people aren't budging, the senators aren't budging, and the other Republicans aren't budging. And if you think that they're going to be singing some sort of a different tune in the Senate, take a look at what the GOP report did and said today. It basically said, this is a vendetta by the Democrats, and Trump is perfect, and he can do no wrong, and everything he did was perfect. Because, of course, Trump will not even let them suggest that maybe what he did wasn't the best way to handle it. Because, of course, he is not prepared to admit that he is wrong. And so they are trapped in a position where they either agree or they, are basically destroyed by their constituents. So that's where we're at, okay? And it's important that you stay really clear-headed about it, because things are going to change, okay? All indicators are that he is still most likely to either leave or be removed from office, but I don't see it happening as a direct result of the impeachment hearings. I think, I've said this before, I think that there is going to be some information comes out that's coming forward that is going to really, really put Trump in such a bad light that even some of those die-hard hangers-oners or believers, or more important, not them, but the people who know better but can't say anything, even they are going to start pulling back and going, this is a bridge too far. Pay attention to what is going on during the hearings, but know that the tricks, the dirty tricks, the disillusions, the ridiculous stories are all going to continue, okay? If you saw on television today, there was a, I guess like a press conference that took place between Marcon and Trump. And Marcon has literally taken off the gloves, and he is no longer having a bromance with Trump. He is no longer putting up with his crap. He is correcting him literally in real time. Trump says something and Marcon just corrects him. And this time it was interesting to see that Marcon really, really did monopolize the time and the energy in front of the press. He didn't sort of sit there and shake his head and let Trump ramble. He really, when it was his time to talk, he talked and he talked and he talked, because he was trying in his own way, not only for his country, but, globally, to kind of get the message out that, you know what, this guy is like, not operating with a full package of crayons, right? That elevator's no longer going to the top floor. It got stuck somewhere between stupidity and ego. So you're seeing these shifts and changes, but the reality is what happens when that happens to Trump is that he just he lashes out more. He becomes more angry. He becomes more uncontrollable. And so, that's where we're at. It's just really important that you be sort of really mindful and clear-eyed about what is going on. A lot of my viewers tell me that I give them hope and I give them clarity and I make things make sense. And I very much appreciate that. But I also feel that that is actually my purpose. That's why I have gone public and I am doing what I am doing. But that does not mean that I am going to delude you or pretend that things are going to be better, or things are better when in fact they're not. Because literally the energies in some ways are really, really frozen, right? You have two groups of people who were sort of entrenched in what they believe. Unfortunately, one group is believing a fantasy and one group is not. And the ones in the middle, like I said, they're sort of either not paying attention, or they sort of haven't heard enough, even almost like to formulate an opinion. But I suppose this is kind of, you know how they say that it isn't the destination, it's the journey. And that is very much true in this case, okay? The destination is going to be that Trump leaves office in disgrace. The journey, you have been told by me multiple times, and you've been told by other readers, it's going to be bumpy. It's not a smooth ride. It's not all going to go kind of in one direction. It's going to be this continual reality fantasy, logic nonsense, sanity insanity that goes on, because that's all they have to work with. And so that's all you're going to hear from the GOP and their supporters and their members. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at right now. I want you to just be mindful of that. We're entering a period of time where I don't want you to become disillusioned, and I don't want you to fall into a negativity trap, because if you believe the sort of the nonsense, if you fall into that kind of pettiness and the squabbling that's going on, if you start to put importance to that, it will grow, it will multiply, and that is the very last thing you want. You want to keep your focus so that you stay positive and you continue to do the work that needs to be done to move this forward in a direction that is going to allow for that great big broom to sweep out the White House. It will happen. It will come. It's not going to come next week or the following Tuesday. So, you know, just be mindful of that. Couple other things that I just wanted to touch base on. The visit at NATO is going to continue to be quite volatile, because he's going to get pushback, kind of to the degree that he really hasn't gotten it before. And so that's going on. Okay. So expect, again, more volatility, more tweeting from him. You know, Nancy Pelosi is also in Europe saying, we are not here to discuss the impeachment. We're talking about, you know, global warming, and we are going to keep our domestic issues on within our shores. And then you got Trump yelling and screaming about impeachment all over the damn globe. Okay. So that's going on. So expect continued volatility there. The Brexit thing, I don't know a lot about the politics in the UK, but I have been sort of monitoring it and kind of, you know, feeling out the energies. This right now is what I get. I don't think that Boris Johnson is going to win this election, but it's not going to be a huge loss, okay? It is going to be a real tight vote. I think that his politics are starting to diminish. From what I understand, the latest poll has him only in a single digit lead. The election's on the 12th, so we're on the 3rd. You've got, 9 days. And the thing is, if Trump, who has a ridiculously, I think he has like a 22% favorability rating in Britain. So if he opens that mouth, which frankly you can almost guarantee it's going to happen because it's Trump, he's probably going to propel some people who are on the line or whatever away from Boris, because they're going to say, oh my God, they're two peas in a pod. And do we actually really need or want that? Has this guy not basically humiliated and embarrassed us enough? So I'll continue to monitor that, but right now it's looking like Boris is going to go down, but again, it doesn't look like it's going to be a huge loss. But right now it looks like it will at least be a loss. So let's hang on to, whatever good news we can find, frankly. Okay, so thank you very much for any of those of you who were curious under the tree that's just on the table. If you saw the stockings around it when the camera was down, those are the animal stockings. The people stockings are elsewhere in the room, but all the animal ones are around the tree. All the pets in our house got stockings. This is his very first Christmas. This is Atticus. He's now, I don't know, 5 months or something. He has everybody's heart in this family. So it's his first Christmas. We're very excited. And just so you know, the stockings are filled up for them and they do get to open them on Christmas morning. So, take care. Stay positive. And keep strong. Don't lose hope. Until next time, take care. Be well. And me and Atticus will see you soon. Bye.